What up, y'all? It's your boy, Justin, on All NFT Gaming, and we are starting a new thing called the All NFT Gaming Podcast. Yes, we're going to talk all about the industry. We're going to talk about different topics that aren't really that well discussed out here in blockchain game world, and really give you some enlightenment and education and knowledge about what you should be thinking about as you're diving into this new thing called NFT gaming. Today's episode is all about pay to win. What gamers are thinking about this, what you might not know about NFT gaming, and how it interacts with the pay to win concept on different levels, or just different viewpoints that you might have by the end of this. I'm not saying that all games should be blockchain games. Hell no, they should not. There's definitely places where NFTs don't make sense at all. But I just want to help you get learned on everything that's happening so that you can form an intelligent opinion and chase down the games that resonate with you the most. So with all that said, let's get into it. First of all, you're going to be seeing a bunch of footage on this podcast of various blockchain games that are cool. You can learn all about these games on our channel, and they may or may not be relevant to the specific topics I'm discussing. This is more like a podcast with some cool videos on top of it. You can see really cool games in action, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's related to what I'm talking about. So just so you know. So anyway, NFTs in general, gamers have a lot of problems with NFTs being in games. People are like, NFTs are dumb. I don't get it. There's no point to them, blah, blah, blah. So in comes blockchain gaming, which says, okay, now you can have NFTs and display them in a game and then use those to display really cool skins, or perhaps have NFTs that actually impact your gameplay. Like, for example, an NFT with better stats. We're going to be talking a lot about that in this episode and what gamers aren't understanding that's happening under the surface of NFT games. What is pay to win? Well, according to Macmillan Dictionary, which was result number 1 of Googling definition of pay to win, Merriam-Webster seems to be off their game right now. It says this: in online gaming, the practice of buying in-game items that give a player a very big advantage over others. So that is the tried and true mainstream definition of pay to win. You can buy things in a game that gives you an advantage over other players, like, for example, a better gun that the other player doesn't have because they did not buy that gun, which leads to you winning more fights and them losing more fights. NFTs can play a role in giving players advantages in games, but that is not always the case, and there are actually a lot of cases where NFTs do not play a role in giving players advantages in the games. Like, developers know, okay? Developers know that gamers are putting games under the microscope to make sure they're quote-unquote fair. They don't like pay-to-win aspects. They don't like having to pay for more power in a game. For example, game developers are coming up with these similar models that traditional games have by having cosmetics be the NFTs, but the NFTs don't affect the actual gameplay themselves. So a couple good examples of blockchain games that do this that I can think of off the top of my head are Blanco's Block Party, which is a really fun kind of Fall Guys inspired game where you have many different game types, and the characters in the game are all called Blancos, and they wear skins where the skins are all NFTs. You can have a skin, like, for example, from Burberry released NFTs for Blanco's Block Party. So that's pretty cool. But there is no effect at all when you're playing Blanco's Block Party. The fact that you have NFTs, doesn't matter what NFTs you have, it does not matter in the actual game. It's just for like style points. Another example I can think of where NFTs don't affect gameplay at all is Big Time. Big Time is a game where you travel through time, you go on missions from different time periods. It's kind of like this top-down adventure game. You can get rewards, and the rewards are various forms of NFTs, etc. But the developers, they said outright that the NFTs don't affect gameplay. They're more like cosmetics and style points and all these other things. Now, here's the thing. There are ways, okay, and there are many games where NFTs affect earnings, but not gameplay. Okay, that's another way that NFTs don't affect gameplay and don't provide advantages to players, okay? You can have a game where you have a bunch of characters, and the characters might have different rarity levels, like, for example, common all the way up to legendary, But if you have a legendary character in the game and you're playing against other players that have common characters, that doesn't mean that you win more or have more power or anything like that. What it does mean is that you have the ability to earn more rewards faster than another player. The play to earn aspect is enhanced by having more desirable NFTs or higher level NFTs, but it does not affect, how frequently you can kill someone else, what you have in the game that helps you in the game, and all these other things. So there are a couple games that do this, and I don't remember one of them off the top of my head, but they exist. And it's a really cool concept because it kind of separates the mini game of play to earn from the actual game itself, but it doesn't separate it so far as cosmetics only games where the only utility you have is cosmetics and hoping somebody buys your skin and all these other things. So I thought that was a cool middle ground to talk about. Let's look at a basic example that is involving pay to win aspects for a game. So let's say everybody starts a game, it's like a shooter game, and everybody has handgun. And then all of a sudden there's another gun you can get that's a more powerful gun, and it's like an assault rifle. The players that have assault rifles have big advantages over players that have handguns. Now, let's say that the assault rifle costs money, so you can buy an assault rifle and buy an advantage over players that do not have an assault rifle. Okay, this is an example of a game that's pay to win. However, there's an unconsidered factor, okay, that you may not be thinking about when you're thinking about the general concept of having in-game assets that give you more powers than other players that don't have that assets. And here it is. It's scarcity. Scarcity is tied to NFTs where you cannot have more than a certain number of a certain type of in-game item anyway in a game. What that does is it creates an environment where you cannot encounter that item in an opponent at a certain frequency. What does this really do? And what does this model of having scarcity in a game where you purchase items to get more power really mean? What it means to me is it creates a general type of player boss model. In a game where you're like PvE, for example, and you're fighting these monsters in the forest, the monsters in the forest have various degrees of power. You might not have enough equipment to defeat a boss that's really powerful, and you need to think of other ways, creative ways to defeat this boss, with strategy, with allies, with other things like that. But in a game where you can buy assets that you own permanently as NFTs that give you more power, you become a boss in the game that is also a player. But the scarcity factor prevents every player or too many players from having this power. So what it really does is it just creates a boss where there's a human AI, there's a human intelligence component instead of an AI intelligence component. And you are now challenged with defeating this more powerful player using creative means, using strategy, using allies, creatively using your own character's abilities. How would a traditional game studio handle pay to win? Because they just want all your money. There's no NFTs are factored into this. And now you're playing a game that the developers are selling you stuff that gives you more power in the game. In the example that we put earlier with the shooter game, everybody has handguns, and then the developer comes out, they're like, yo, we have a new gun that you can buy from us called the assault rifle, and now if you buy that, you can kill people more easily that have handgun. And so what happens is they want to make the most money possible, okay? So they're not going to put any scarcity on this gun, and then anybody who has enough money can buy that gun, and now there's too many people with that gun, and the law of diminishing returns starts to kick in, and the people that can't afford that gun are like, this game is dumb now, like this is stupid, everybody I'm encountering has an assault rifle, I quit. And so now the developer is like, yo, everybody has assault rifles, now we have a machine gun, so you can buy this machine gun and you can kill everybody that has assault rifles more easily, blah, blah, blah. So now they just repeat the process, they sell as many machine guns as they can, and then players are paying for these machine guns, and yeah, it's great at first, but then as more machine guns get sold, the law of diminishing returns kicks in, and now they're like, yo, now we have a rocket launcher, and you see where I'm going with this, okay? When you have the scarcity element in place, it allows the game to be sustainable, okay, where not too many people can have these powers, but it also implements a new way to play the game where you have to encounter these more powerful players from time to time and deal with that and solve that, which brings a lot more satisfaction to playing the game when you actually defeat that. I'm in the same place, okay? I was in the place of being a player that's not as powerful in the blockchain game and beating a player that's more powerful. And it's like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, I was just like, hell yeah, let's go. This is awesome. You know, and I've also been a player in a blockchain game that had that equipment and was defeated by people that didn't have as good stuff as I did. And I was like, man, props to them, like respect, like that's actually pretty cool. And I'm going to talk a lot more about that a little bit later. But here's the thing. Developers make money on the initial sales when they sell NFTs for a game, sure. But the end game is trading volume. When NFTs are created, the person mints an NFT, but the rules of the NFT can include a royalty for the developer every time the NFT is sold to another person. Let's say the developer has the initial price of an NFT is $50, buy the NFT for $50 from the developer, and now they own that NFT. If they sell that NFT to another person, that other person will get the NFT. The first person who sold it will get the amount of money that they got from the other player, but the developer will get a small percentage from that sale, from that trade where they weren't involved, like they don't own it anymore. What that means is they're not incentivized to make the most money possible by selling items first and foremost to players. Scarcity can exist and won't be betrayed later on because the developer is like, yo, if we're able to generate scarce and rare NFTs that players will trade amongst each other, we could make even more money off that NFT than if we tried to sell it at an insanely high price to the first person that buys it. That's something that I wanted to bring up. Here's the other thing about NFTs in blockchain games. Gamers think that they have to buy all of the NFTs, but they don't. They don't, because there's scholarship programs that allow gamers to access NFTs from other holders without owning, buying, spending, doing all that stuff. This, in my opinion, is a critical element of blockchain games because you're going to have a lot of players that don't want to invest or spend a lot of money on assets. They just want to play the game because the game's cool. If you have a whole group of people that have NFTs but don't necessarily play the game and they just want to have the NFTs, then you have a bunch of gamers on the other side that don't want to even deal with NFTs. They just want to play the game. Then you can create a system where NFTs have utility in the game, but also players don't have to be the ones that are taking the risk. Okay, and I'm going to talk about risk a lot today. They don't have to take the risk of playing. And there are different ways to do that. I mean, there's clans that are set up or guilds where if you prove your worth in battle, they might reward you with access to better NFTs. But like I said earlier, there are new game dynamics that take place when you're dealing with people that have stronger equipment. And in my opinion, that makes a game even more interesting than a traditional game. This aspect of gameplay-based NFTs creates a quadrant within the NFT gaming ecosystem when you're playing a specific game. Normally, it's like a one-dimensional line where you have like good players and then you have bad players, and that's just one line. And if you're a bad player, you have two options: get good or be bad forever. That's it. That's all you get. Okay. With NFTs and blockchain-based gaming that have gameplay-based NFTs, it creates a quadrant where you have bad players with bad equipment, you have good players with bad equipment, you have bad players with good equipment, and you have good players with good equipment. So now, in my view, you get a few more options that you can enjoy the game with. If you're not a good player, you can still have good equipment and then encounter a good player with bad equipment and be like, oh, what's going to happen? This is new. This is interesting. Like, who's going to win this? And that just makes it more interesting to me and dynamic. The thing about pay to win and gameplay-based NFTs, as I'll say, is that you have recreational gamers versus hardcore gamers. And I definitely see myself more as a recreational gamer. Now, the thing about hardcore gamers is that the hardcore gamers friggin' hate anything that players can have to give them an unfair advantage just by like spending more money, because it, in their mind, it violates the sanctity of the game that's based on skill, and you're the best in the game because you have the best skill, and everybody has the same opportunity, everybody has the same equipment, and you're winning the game, you're number one because you have the best skill. The thing is, the industry is comprised of a lot of gamers that are not hardcore gamers, like people like me that are recreational gamers that are like, I just want to enjoy a game and not get stomped on by these hardcore gamers that are just like dominating the game. Apex is a great example. It's really hard to play Apex. I don't win a lot of the time. It's not something that is sustainable in terms of winning, but it's still interesting to, you know, maybe try to get kills, work with a team, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, as a recreational gamer, if I could just buy a Carbine Spitfire combo that I always spawn with, that would be amazing. Like, I would love that. And then if there's a rarity aspect where like not everybody can have that power, that will prevent the hardcore gamers from getting access to all of those opportunities. So now I'm more likely to be even keeled with a hardcore gamer that might not have their ideal loadout or whatever. I have my ideal loadout and I have better chance to, you know, beat that player on an even keel. I like that. The skill gap really hurts game communities, because the bigger the skill gap is, the more you are alienating the long tail of the community. Nobody wants to play a game where they lose every time, but the algorithms in a lot of the matchmaking processes in traditional games, for sure, are designed to keep you grinding and keep you sweaty, not by giving you fair fights, but by challenging you and beating you down to the point where you're like, okay, I just need to keep doing it. And if I keep doing it, I will get better. And then I will finally enjoy the game. But the algorithm just adjusts and it just moves the goalposts and you don't know what to do about it. It's like this chasing the dragon, never ending thing. But in my opinion, gameplay-based NFTs, I think, really resolves a lot of that. And I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. Like, you may disagree. I'm way more like mentally sound in a blockchain game where I have really good stuff. I'm encountering people with the same NFTs as me. That's fine. And if they're better than me, that's fine. But I'm also encountering people who are way better at the game than I am, but they don't have as good equipment as I do. And I'm like, this is cool too, because I can participate in this game and not just be ground down to a pulp by quote unquote fair games, players that have way more time and talent and just odds stacked in their favor, you know, are just beating me down all the time. So like, that's what's up with that. Okay. But here's the next thing. Gamers don't see, and the industry doesn't really talk about, the secondary game that takes place in the blockchain gaming industry. And the secondary game is something that I like to call the under game. Okay. What is the under game? Like, whoa. In a blockchain game, gamers are coming in thinking like, okay, I'm going to play a game that's just like a regular game, except the only difference is I can get rewards and I can get NFTs and things like that. Now, underneath that, there's the NFT trading system. There's the crypto asset trading system that's associated with that. And then there's the stakes system of what are you losing if you're bad at the game, or what are you putting up for a stakes when you're encountering a game. That varies with different games. Like, some games are outright just point blank obvious with it. They're saying, look, you go and you get XYZ tokens, you wager XYZ tokens, you play a game. If you lose the game, you lose XYZ tokens. If you win a game, you win the other person's XYZ tokens. It's very much like pink slip racing, and there's stakes involved that you yourself are putting up. Not all blockchain games are like that. In fact, most blockchain games are not like that at all. You can play a game and just get exposed to rewards and then offset the under game to other people that want to play that under game of trading, which is a game, a zero-sum game. There are ways for gamers to play game completely normally without even touching or dealing with or strategizing NFTs and crypto assets. It's totally possible, happens all the time. You know, in fact, I really like games that can separate the under game from the over game, because a lot of gamers don't want to play this crypto game, like the under game. They don't want to do that. They just want to play the game. So the problem is you've got developers of blockchain games that are trying to get gamers to buy NFTs. And that's, I think, where a big valid argument of the anti-NFT gaming scene is placed, where they're like, look, they're trying to expose these gamers to risks, okay, that they may or may not be even considering by saying, look, play this really cool game, buy these NFTs. We want the gamers to be the holders of the NFTs. This is why I, again, am so hell-bent on the concept of scholarships, guilds. The holders are the holders, the gamers are the gamers. Let that be that. Metalcore is a great example of this. Metalcore has baronies. So you can have barons that own baronies, and these baronies control a bunch of NFTs. And then baronies recruit gamers who want nothing to do with NFTs, and they play the game with NFTs that the baronies have. Now, the baronies may have NFTs of various levels, you know, and that's part of the game. That's all cool. You may get access to better NFTs if you prove your loyalty and blah, blah, blah. There does not have to be any involvement with the undergame if you just want to play the game and be cool. I'd like to make a comparison here of this undergame with poker. Blockchain games are actually quite similar to poker. You've got an investment, you've got skill, and you've got calculated risk. This is actually why I'm so interested in blockchain gaming, because people think that you're playing a game where you're like spawning in a game, shooting up stuff, right? Having NFTs, having crypto. But to me, I'm actually playing poker, which is a zero-sum game. There's winners and losers. The losers lose money and the winners win money. That's literally the game. Taking out entirely, and let's put to the side for a moment, the overgame, okay? Like the knowing your way around the rifle, like doing strategies, like driving real fast and all that stuff. Put that to the side for a second, okay? The undergame is, I know how to get the best NFTs. I know why NFTs are better than others. I know what strategies to employ with those NFTs in a game. And I know how to strategize the crypto asset, which goes up and down over time. And there are traders that are involved in that. I know how to do all those things. And I want to play that game against other people who think they can do that better than me, who think they can manage NFTs better than me, who think they can do technical analysis on crypto assets better than me. I accept the risk of losing that game and ipso facto losing money to somebody else who's playing that game better than me. The odds are stacked against me. Like most traders lose money. Most NFT collections are, at heavy risk of not producing any revenues or profits or whatever. But like gamers don't understand the risk of that undergame. And that's where like I'm a little bit disappointed in the industry. I think that a lot of development houses in the industry are underplaying the risk, and they're understating what the undergame is, and that is hurting gamers and really making the developers seem like they're trying to pull one over on gamers and getting them interested and really into a game for the game cool factor. But then all of a sudden, they're getting NFTs that they weren't really supposed to get because they didn't really understand how the NFTs played a role in the game. They bought an NFT that they thought would be really cool and work well in the game, but actually they're getting trounced by people who spent less money on better NFTs they didn't understand. Or like they're buying a bunch of crypto assets because the game requires them to buy these crypto assets to do these different things, but they don't understand the risk and strategy you need to do in order to get more out of the game than you put in. It's a zero sum. It may not be zero sum among the gamers. It may also include traders as well who buy and sell the crypto asset. If the crypto asset goes up, that's more rewards for gamers. That's good. But it's not clear to gamers. Now, the thing about poker, let's get back to poker for a second, is that everyone who's playing poker understands the game, understands the risks, and wants to play the game for what it is at face value. There's no like secret pulling one over on you. There's no like, oh, you thought you were playing poker, but actually you're playing this completely other thing. If I'm playing poker and I lose money, I'm like, dang, that sucks. Okay, if I'm playing poker and I win money, I'm like, ha ha ha, I took your money. But like everybody understands the risk of losing their money in a poker game. Now, I think consent is a real important factor of poker. Like if you invited somebody to a game and you said, let's all play poker for fun, and then you run out of chips and they're like, all right, now pay up $100. They're like, wait, I thought we were playing this game for fun. And then it's like, no, psych. That would be like extremely like shady and dirty to do. That's why I feel that education is so important in the blockchain gaming industry, because we need to educate gamers on where the non-risks are, okay? Playing a game for fun, being in a guild, not needing NFTs, not needing to spend money on the crypto asset to play the game. We need to educate them on where those are and what those opportunities are. And then we need to educate them on where the undergame is, what the undergame is. Do you want to play the undergame? If you do, you consent to these risks, like losing all your money, buying NFTs that you didn't know that actually those NFTs weren't as good as other NFTs, spending money on crypto assets without even realizing that it could crash, the price could crash, or they could change the nature of the game to make you spend more money on crypto assets, or like all these other things. Education is so super critical, and we need to make sure that gamers understand the different aspects of what's going on with blockchain games. The main point that I'm making here is there's a huge difference in different types of blockchain games, okay? Like cosmetics-based NFT games and gameplay-based NFT games, totally different. Okay, we talked about that. And then the undergame can also be removed through renting and scholarships and these other things. It can be transferred to other people who want to play the undergame. Just because a game has NFTs in it that give you more or less powers doesn't mean that you need to expose yourself to putting up a lot of money in order to get ahead. There's a way to say that blockchain games that have these gameplay-based NFTs aren't pay to win, because pay to win implies paying. So if you don't pay, it's not pay to win, right? If you have other people dealing with the undergame of managing NFT collections, understanding the powers of different NFTs, running guilds, and then giving players access to those guilds for free, how is that pay to win for the gamers? It's not. It's not. But the different gameplay dynamics that are existing due to these different power levels of NFTs remain. And in my opinion, makes the game more interesting. It does. It just makes the game more interesting to me. Cooler and better. So let's look at an example of a game that very clearly and distinctly has NFTs that you acquire that or you get your hands on in other ways that gives you different power levels in the game. Okay, and let's understand how that game affects different players by having this mechanic in it, and is it better or worse for the game? Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about War Riders. Okay, War Riders is an open world MMO drive and shoot game. I guess similar games that I might compare it to, I'm dating myself here, but like Vigilante 8, or games like, you have a car and then you have guns on it and you kill people. Let me tell you this right now, y'all. I love this game. Like, this is one of the coolest games I've ever played, regardless of NFT or not NFT, regardless of AAA or not AAA. It's just, I freaking love it. The player base is low right now, but when the map is filled with players and clans and there's huge battles, it's an absolute blast. And I actually quit playing AAA games to play this game instead. So like I was playing Halo Infinite, I quit that. I was playing Apex, I quit that. I was playing Rocket League, I quit that. Just to play this game because I was like, wow, this is like even cooler than the other games. And it wasn't necessarily just because it was a blockchain-based game. It was just because of the different dynamics of being open world, being a real-time 24/7 world that you have the vehicles in, you have different weapons on the vehicles, you have different strategies of attack, you have different ways to work with small groups or large forces, and also the politics involved of like clan versus clan, clans joining together to create like super clans, or like what do we call them, factions. It was just like really interesting. I guess there are other traditional games that have these similar aspects, but let's talk about the gameplay NFTs in War Riders specifically. Is War Riders pay to win? That's a big question. I went to the current version of the War Riders website, and the current version says, we strongly believe that War Riders is not pay to win, and that this definition mostly applies to games with closed economies. Pay to win games usually require players to constantly pay to progress in the game. At War Riders, you purchase the items to play with that you can later sell on any decentralized marketplace. You earn cryptocurrency with your set of items, which utilizes an innovative concept called play to earn. Players can also utilize strategy to play with low-grade items, team up with others, and or rent an account from others. At War Riders, we don't even have an option to pay to progress in the game. So that's their official response to, is War Riders pay to win? And here's my response to their response to that question. Let's go back to the original definition of pay to win. According to the mainstream, it says, in online gaming, the practice of buying in-game items that give a player a very big advantage over others. So in War Riders, can you buy NFTs or in-game items that give you a very big advantage over players? Absolutely, yes. You can buy a gun that kills a player in like 2 seconds. You can buy a gun that kills a player in like 8 seconds. You can buy an SUV that is faster and more nimble, or you can buy a tank that's slower, but way stronger and like will kill an SUV one-on-one any day. I can buy NFTs in War Riders where I can always win a 1v1 fight. It doesn't matter what the fight is most of the time, unless they can strategize against me using positioning of their vehicle, stealth, distracting me, when I'm in a different fight, third partying me. Like, you can buy assets that give you huge advantages in this game. In the terms of the traditional definition, I definitely have to concede 100%. I'm conceding that people will come across this game and be like, this is pay to win. Okay. There's no way around that part of it. That doesn't mean that it's not a really cool game. And that doesn't mean that you have to pay to win. Okay. Those are some of the things that the game is getting right in the description here. Like, they're saying things like you can use skill and strategy to overtake opponents that have better equipment. I've died many times. From people that have worse equipment. But the problem with traditional gamers that are like as good as me, but have worse equipment, they're probably going to lose, and then they're going to complain and they're going to say it's pay to win. But here's the thing. Why do I love playing this game, even though it's pay to win? And why did I love playing this game, even when I had bad NFTs and I was getting trounced by players with good NFTs? That clearly gives players advantages over others. Like, I'm in no way a shark at the top of the food chain in this game. Like, I get trounced all the time by other players that have even better stuff than I do. Yeah, I have better stuff than other people, but there are other people that have better stuff than me. And like, why do I still love this game? And why am I not complaining and whining about the lack of fairness in the game? Oh, it's not fair. Like, they have a Lamborghini in the game that can go really fast and they can always chase me down and take my money, or they can always escape if I'm trying to kill them. And like, why am I not complaining about that? I thought about that for a long time, and I was like, this is so weird to me, because pay to win has always been like, oh, like terrible, awful, bad. Now I'm in a game that's basically pay to win, and I'm like, this is actually cooler than games that are quote unquote like fair. I think what I'm about to say next is really what a lot of skeptical gamers need to hear, and what a lot of gamers that hate advantage item games don't really get about blockchain games and the place that some of these blockchain games are heading. Again, not every game that is blockchain powered has these, game-based NFTs. Some of them have cosmetics only. Some of them have earnings-based NFTs that don't affect gameplay, blah, blah, blah. One of the main reasons, before I get into like the gameplay parts of it, one of the main reasons is, as somebody who enjoys the undergame, I've been in the blockchain industry for many years. I really like the idea of game-based NFTs bringing extra utility to owning certain NFTs. Gameplay-based NFTs give utility to the NFTs to me, because you can now do different things in the game based on that NFT. The side effect of that is opening up the opposition to complaining about pay to win and like advantage players that have better gear than you and blah, blah, blah. But like, there's a number of players out there that are like, this is actually cool. I'm one of them. I don't think there's a lot of us right now, but I'm one of them. Why, other than giving more utility to NFTs, why do I think that this War Riders game, which definitely gives you advantages of having different NFTs, is actually really cool and better and not unfair and great? I should be complaining about that. I'm not. Let's go back to the concept of player-based bosses. So like, player bosses that have better equipment brings a new element of the game, not necessarily based on your hand-eye coordination, but based on your ability to work well with others, your ability to look at a situation from a satellite view and understand proper decision making. Like all these types of things are like really attractive to me. That's why I really liked playing StarCraft back in the day. Like I was playing StarCraft hella back in the day, like 90s, played on dial-up. StarCraft 2, played it for years. The problem is with StarCraft, it ended up being like a Optimus strategy, like, okay, they're beating me every time and I'm never winning any games anymore because they're just on a level that I will never get to because I'm not a hardcore gamer. I'm a recreational gamer, and like, it's just not going to happen. And like, it doesn't matter what the difficulty levels that I'm playing in are. Like, there's going to be like Smurf accounts. Like Smurf accounts are a big problem in Apex. If I could just be like, my opponent is better than me, they don't have as good equipment as I do. Now it's like more interesting to me. It's like I can actually play. Why would they be complaining about a fair fight against me, a worse player that has better equipment? If they're so good, beat me with my better stuff, you know? And that brings me to my next point. The satisfaction I get from killing somebody that has better NFTs than me is like indescribable. It's like, if you've never done it, you will never know, and you'll just not get my point, okay? But I'm trying to tell you, when I'm in the game and I have my NFTs, and my NFTs are good, they're not the best, but I encounter like a tank with 7 guns and all the guns are better than mine, let me finally kill this tank with my worst guns. I'm just like, in your friggin' face with your $16,000 friggin' guns and your friggin' tank. You could not beat me. And I'm not even a hardcore gamer. I'm recreational. Like, that's the point of gaming, right? It's an emotional activity. You want to feel the emotion of victory. You want to feel the accomplishment of doing really cool things in the game. It's all about that dopamine cycle, right? That chemical release. NFT games, you get such a huge rush from beating players with better equipment than you. I cannot even describe to you, okay? When people kill me that have worse equipment than me, they're always DMing me after. They're like, oh, dude, I got you. Like, blah, 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 you're done. I'm just like, and I'm having fun. Like, I'm having fun with it. It doesn't matter if they have better guns than me. It doesn't matter if I have better guns with them. It's just so fun for me to have this extra aspect of gameplay-based NFTs in the game. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the best at describing it, but it's just something I feel, and it's just why I'm so interested and involved with games that have gameplay-based NFTs. It's just like that new dynamic, that new element. The other thing is the scarcity aspect. Because I know that, yes, it's true, I don't have a Lamborghini in War Riders, okay? But I know that there's a limited number of Lamborghinis, and as the player base grows, the probability that I encounter a Lamborghini in the game goes down. It's not like you're getting 100% beaten 100% of the time of these players that have better equipment than you. It's more like, as the game grows, it becomes more normal, where you see like a real fear and a real like, oh crap moment when you see this quote unquote player boss, alpha predator in the game, and you're like, what are we gonna do now? We have to like figure out how to deal with this situation, right? But a downside that I have to mention is that when the player base is small, okay, the smaller the player base is, the more pronounced the effect of better equipment is. For example, if there's not a lot of players in the game, you're highly likely to encounter the best equipment in the game with your opponents. There's less players, so the players that are playing, they're playing with like the best equipment possible. But when you have a large player base, right, like thousands of players, then you're much less likely to encounter these powerful like players, these powerful weapons and stuff. That Darth Vader moment, right? But Darth Vader cannot be everywhere at once, okay? And that's what creates those epic moments, those stories that you want to tell people later on. You're like, man, I was in this epic battle, right? Like, we're fighting them, they're fighting us, we're shooting. All of a sudden, like 7 tanks show up. Like, there's, you know, at this point, there's 50,000 players in the game, right? So like, you never see tanks in the game. Like, there's only like 300 tanks in War Riders, right? So if you have like a huge game going on in War Riders and freaking tanks show up, like, that's something to talk about with your friends. That's something to put on Twitch and get like 1 million views. That's something that's like making the game really interesting and really exciting. And like that scarcity combined with the NFTs and true ownership, that's what allows that drama to take place in the game. That's why I think gamers are really hung up. And I talked earlier about this, like the hardcore gamers are really hung up on this, and they're like, no, hardcore gamers. It's all about the skill. I want to beat you because I'm better than you. You're not better than me. If you beat me, I'll give you respect because of the skill, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the entire gaming industry, y'all. That's really freaking not. Twitch glorifies it because the best gamers, they have the most followers and subscribers, you know. Most gamers are never going to reach that level of skill. They need to enjoy games in other ways. The NFT aspect of gaming, the NFT-based in-game assets, the way that scarcity works in the game from NFTs, that I think can expose more people to a fun gameplay experience without spending any money. So in summary, to close this, you know, huge rant of a podcast episode, there is an undergame. If you're not aware of the undergame, be aware because you can be taken advantage of. The second thing is you do not have to play the undergame if you don't want to. You can join a guild. The guild can give you really good stuff. If you get higher ranks up in the guild, they'll give you even better stuff you can play. And then thirdly, there are games that are very clearly pay to win according to the mainstream definition. There are games that have the aspects of pay to win that other gamers will acknowledge, and I will concede, that are fun as crap, regardless of if you pay a cent or if you're paying a bunch more money than 1 cent. They're fun as crap, and they are like super interesting to play and super exciting to play and generate stories that give you that rewarding feeling of being in a game that's really, really cool. Like, they exist. War Riders is one of them. I hope that the player base of War Riders gets bigger so that, you know, we can get back to playing it all the time and being cool and doing cool stuff and blah, blah, blah. But I just wanted to share with you some of my thoughts, you know, just from my industry experience, my experience with gaming as well, and get y'all caught up on where I'm at in terms of NFTs in games, the different kinds of NFTs that are in games and the way they interact with each other, and what aspects gameplay-based NFTs really bring to a game. So like and subscribe. I need more subscribers. We need more subscribers at ANG. We really appreciate everybody out there in the community helping ANG grow, and keep an eye for more cool stuff coming out. There's probably going to be more podcast episodes coming out. So if you like this one, there's going to be completely different topics. We're going to look at different games and hopefully get some interviews with some different game developers. That would be really cool. But for now, stay frosty, keep it chill, and see you next time.